What does it mean to seek justice 70 years too late? Can the echoes of a wrongful conviction ever truly be silenced? In the spring of 1944, in the small mill town of Alcolu, South Carolina, life followed the slow, rhythmic patterns typical of the rural South. Yet beneath this seemingly tranquil surface, a horrendous storm was brewing, one that would sweep away the life of a young boy named George Stinney Jr. On a typical March day, George, a 14-year-old African-American boy weighing just 90 pounds, was doing what many children do, playing outside with his sister. It was during this innocent pastime that two young white girls approached, asking where they might find flowers. George saw them briefly before they moved on, a fleeting encounter which should have dissolved into the fabric of an ordinary day. However, the girls did not return home that evening. A search party formed, cutting through the woods and fields of Alcolu. Unbeknownst to George, joining the search would seal his fate. During the search, he mentioned seeing the girls earlier, an offhand comment that transformed him from a bystander into the prime suspect. By the next morning, the girls' bodies were discovered in a shallow ditch, brutally murdered. Without hesitation, authorities arrested George. He endured hours of interrogation alone, without the comfort of his parents or the guidance of an attorney. Under questionable circumstances, the sheriff announced that George had confessed, though no concrete evidence of this confession was ever presented. As the news spread, George's father lost his job, and his family faced such severe threats they were forced to flee their home. An angry mob, hungry for vengeance, sought to lynch George, but he had already been transferred to a more secure facility. Fast forward to April 24th, George stood trial. The courthouse doors might as well have been barred to African Americans, as none were permitted inside. His defense, led by a court-appointed tax attorney with little experience and less interest, was pitifully inadequate. Not a single witness was called to stand in George's defense. The prosecution's case hinged solely on the sheriff's claim of a confession. After a mere 10 minutes of deliberation, an all-white jury found George guilty of rape and murder. The judge sentenced him to death swiftly. On June 16, 1944, George Stinney Jr. was executed in the electric chair. His death marked a chilling milestone. He remains the youngest individual executed in the United States in the 20th century. 70 years passed before a South Carolina judge revisited George's case. Over 2 days, testimonies from George's siblings, original search party members, and several experts painted a stark picture of injustice. The conclusion was unequivocal. George Stinney Jr. had been deprived of due process. His confession was dubious at best, and his legal representation was woefully ineffective. The judge's ruling was clear. I can think of no greater injustice. George Stinney Jr.'s conviction was vacated, an attempt to right a grievous wrong, albeit decades later. Yet one must wonder, does overturning a conviction after 70 years mitigate the horrors of the past? How do we reconcile the irreversible loss of a young boy's life with our ongoing quest for justice? How does this historical injustice shape our understanding of equality and fairness today? In the echoes of George Stinney Jr.'s story, we find not just a tale of individual tragedy, but a reflection on the enduring imperfections of the human pursuit of justice.